you have done an amazing variety of trainings.
Mm-hmm.
A Peruvian shaman,
Yeah.
Joe Dispenza. You're like you have such a vast sense of knowledge. Did that all lead you to kind of gel into the specific area that you like, or what did all that do for you? Because it's vast and it's fascinating to me.
Mm-hmm. Well, it did, and it sounds fragmented, but actually it's not. It's like the thread. I call it the golden thread, and I think we all have a golden thread that starts when we're younger, and we may go off that path for a while, but we all kind of come back on a path. And if you track over your life what you've done, you will see the periods of what helped you to get through that, and what traumas you had and what you had to learn from that experience so you can move on to further. So I've seen everything that I've ever learned or ever did has impacted me as I go through my life to kind of add on to that. So it's never been, I mean, I've had some really goofy jobs that are not right for me, but very few early on. So I don't know, everything has led me, everything I've learned is just like I always knew next phase, well, this is what I need for me right now so I can teach this. And so I set it up, I've shifted my business a little bit into, I would call stages, like 3 stages of where people are basically, they're never in exactly one of those stages, but we're somewhere in there. And the first stage is really change and transition, just what I talked about. And it correlates very much to what's going on the planet, where things have collapsed. Our systems are not the same as they used to be. Pretty much everything is gone. We'll say that. So that is exactly what's happening with people, though. The same kind of thing is whatever, something in their life is bottomed out. It's not working anymore. They can't make it. We can't go back to that. We can't go backwards to make anything work anymore, because that's not how the world is working right now. So people in that stage come in with just what I've described: change, unhappiness, things aren't going well with their family or with their children or any one of these issues. And then the next stage is sort of this, what I call in between stage. And that's where people are working on themselves. And they could be working on themselves personally. And that's the stage of loss and grief. So many people that I know, they're from that transition and they've had a loss and grief, because there are millions of people who are now in grief on the planet. And so that really has to be dealt with before you can move to another stage of transformation. Because grief wants you to do that. Grief and loss needs you to be present to what is happening in your life, because that will help you change also to be with that. If you don't experience that and allow yourself to be with that, either go to a grief support group, go to a therapist, talk to somebody, do anything you can to help yourself get through that period. If you don't, what I found that it lingers in your life and it will come back later because it is demanding that you take care of it. So that's the stage that I have programs in loss and grief.
I would like to say that grief, what you touched on, is such a valuable thing, and what you offer, especially because I think that some people think grief means death, and maybe it's death of an old life. Maybe
Right,
it's death of what we knew. Maybe maybe it could even be success.
Yeah.
Because there's that gap, and covering that and addressing that, I think, is so important. I know that for me, my own personal experience started 18 years ago or 19 years ago now, because people wouldn't talk about it. It was just under the rug.
Right.
And
yeah.
I'm so glad that that you have some way for people to accept that this part of life. It's an animal we got to deal with. And thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. And you're right. You brought up, it's not just a death of somebody. It's actually your own death of your own identity. And you have to work with that. to be able to be really happy and successful as you move on. You can't just deny these things. And so there are all kinds of deaths of all parts of us all the time that are here coming in. We let that go. A loss of a relationship, divorce. These are all things that we have to deal with. Those are losses, though. So we have to deal with them so that we don't take them into the next part of our life. And so the third part is actually what I have been this year working on, and what am I going to offer in this series, which is called Women in Transition. All three of these stages will be in there. And that third stage is the stage that a lot of us don't know yet in our lives what will happen. So we're in there, and we're trying to kind of rebirth ourselves. We're trying to figure out, okay, here I am. What am I going to do with the next part of my life? So we've been gifted this time to be quiet and stay at home. It is a gift and not a gift for sure. But it has been a time where we can actually spend time with ourselves. And hopefully most people use that time to actually do some introspection deep down into their self about who they are and what they want to be after we go to the next part of our life. So that's kind of a concept. That's the concept I'm working with right now in my packages called Women in Transition.
Could you please share maybe one or two quotes that resonate with you?
It's from Howard Thurman, who's an African-American theologian and minister and civil rights activist. And he says, don't ask what the world needs, ask what makes you come alive, and go do it. Because what the world needs is people who come alive.
Yes.
And
beautiful.
That fits into everything that I've said here as an ending. This is it. People have to come alive and wake up. Another poem, well, I can think of that part of it from Rumi, where he says, don't go back to sleep. Don't go back to sleep. And he's referring to don't go back to sleep and allow yourself not to come alive to who you really are. And so all these quotes and all this all fits into my philosophy of life, is to wake up. If one thing I can leave people with is that at this time, a lot of people are asleep. They're not awake to themselves and the truth that they know. And so we have to wake up. We have to wake up is how I'd like to leave it,
You are so, and also you also said, do one thing every day that pushes your edge by Eleanor Roosevelt.
Yes.
And that is right in with you.
Yeah.
Wake up.
Wake up, do one thing, makes you uncomfortable, because most people who've been successful know that if they don't stay on the edge of uncomfort, that they're not doing their work. Once you get too comfortable in the grind every day or doing the same thing, you tend to stay in that space. And we all like comfort. I do too. We all like to know we know everything and we're there and it's comfortable. We've got it all figured out. But for me, the minute I get to that space, I know that it's not where I probably need to be for the next steps, that I've always got to take myself to, I would call it closer to the edge of creation, of what's next for me while I'm on this planet. What is next for me that I have to do that's going to cause a little discomfort in me? Because nobody does great things if they haven't been discomforted, if they're not in discomfort. I guarantee you. I mean, think of all the people who created things. They have gone through difficult times. Almost all of them. I would call it closer to the edge of creation, of what's next for me while I'm on this planet. What is next for me that I have to do that's going to cause a little discomfort in me? Because nobody does great things if they haven't been discomforted, if they're not in discomfort. I guarantee you. I mean, think of all the people who created things. They have gone through difficult times. Almost all of them. If I pulled them out, I just know they have. To tell their truth, to be a teacher, to make some change on the earth, to create a product, you go through a lot of rejection, a lot of people telling you, oh, don't do that. You got a good job. Why don't you just keep your money coming in? Why don't you just keep doing what you're doing? You'll be okay. You don't need to go out there and do all that. Well, but if you're going to move beyond what the crowd is telling you, you have to be able to be in discomfort. You have to. And it'll be okay. Once you get used to it, it's just what it is.
Those are pearls of wisdom that are very profound.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your inspiration with all your vast knowledge and your experience and your honesty. It really is an honor to interview you.